Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a madcap material that is one of these materials with these little shader balls for ZBrush so you can use a certain lighting for ZBrush. The skin shader for humans actually does work pretty well because it is mostly white and whatever you paint here will go into a shader as close to the color as you can get. What you don't want to do is use another type of skin shader that has some sort of uh, skin color reflected over it. This happens a lot with these shaders. All of them have color. That color is going to affect what you're seeing, and so whatever you create as far as color is going to be a problem. So skin shade is usually does work pretty well. I want to show how to create these madcap shaders anyway, because if you go to these to the material, there's only so much you can do to actually change the material. But if you create one, as I can show you how, you can change it quite drastically. And all you have to do is actually replace the image. The image is creating the lighting. So if you look at the image closely, this material ball, you've got bright areas in the middle, dark areas on the outside, and super dark shadow on the bottom. And that is all created by the sphere that you're looking at right there is just a bunch of different pixels, and it's taking the normal information of what direction your normal in ZBrush is looking, and it's matching it somewhere onto this map of the material. So what I wanted to show was how to create those, and you can really just grab them directly from here and bring them into Photoshop and manipulate them quite drastically if you wanted to. But I also want to show how to create them in Maya and bring them over, because you can create them in any program you want. Doesn't matter. It's just a sphere and it's just an image that you're grabbing. So I'm going to create a sphere here. We're going to apply a Arnold Standard shader, so we can use the Arnold Standard shader engine. And then we just need some lighting. I usually do 3-point lighting, kind of a rim light that's up pretty high, probably going to be somewhere around 20. And then kind of a main light that is going to be a lot less, probably like 4. And play with that just to get it to look like a lit object. And then render with the Arnold engine, you'll see a little more. Uh, Basically, what I want to do is add some subsurface scattering, even though it's white, so I can use the skin shade with a little bit of subsurface scattering that will be added later. And the way we can do that in Arnold is going to the subsurface scattering button here. We'll turn on the weight. You can see it kind of blows everything out. What I'm going to do is change the color. That's going to give me the blood red is what I'm looking for. That's usually what subsurface scattering does. Adds a little bit of blood red. And then I'm going to bring down the radius so it's not quite as bright of subsurface scattering. And I usually play with the scale a little bit. I want some amount of terminator there, and then at a certain point, all of it's going to be a little too red. So you can do one or two things. You can kind of take down the intensity of the red here, just to be a little more gray. That's usually the best way to do it in most engines. And then you can also bring down the weight so it disappears. As you can see, when we turn it on, there's going to be just a little bit of red in the shadow. And that's really important with subsurface scattering to make it feel real. So that's a way we can create a subsurface scattering skin ball. I'm going to adjust the roughness a little bit too. And then I want to place these lights in a slightly better direction, kind of like that. And then with a shadow on the bottom is usually how things are lit. So it's nice to have a little bit of that. And then I do probably want to do some sort of ambient lighting, and I'll create that through the background sky shader. I'm just going to bring down the intensity of the sky shader down through the attributes to like 3. So something like this, you can see it's a little pink, so that will affect whatever color I'm attaching to it later. Maybe I don't want that. I can easily turn it from pink to just straight up white and deal with that color later. But if I am using subsurface scattering in my final shader, I might have to be a little concerned about that. So I'm going to leave just a little bit of pink in here for this particular shader uh, for creating the skin shader. I'm going to adjust the lights to get it's just a little more interesting. Maybe that one's fine. This one could be a little more rim. And then the ambient light seems to be working pretty well, but I wouldn't mind a little more rim on the bottom, just breaking it off of the edge. So sometimes I will have 2 rim lights, bring that down to 10, maybe 5. This one's a lot more subtle. And I can kind of bring it a little closer to the edge and kind of rotate it around the edge just to have some fun, so it's not totally boring rim light here. And then this looks pretty good. It does look like it's a little bit of pink, some subsurface scattering there. Maybe the rim lights are a little kind of flat, so that could be achieved a little better with a directional light or a area light rather than directional light. So let me throw one of those in there. Can usually get a better rim out of these. All right, I'm going to crank this up. Yeah, maybe to 20, and then I'm going to kind of leave it. Yeah, you can see it's doing more of the moon going across the whole board rather than just a little spot. So it feels more like a moon kind of light, and it's playing a little bit with that shadow, which is what I wanted to give it just a little bit of depth in this shader. So yeah, all in all, it's a pretty simple, just skin slightly subsurface scattered shader. We can use that to make this model look more alive, and then paint on it with some other color. We might have to pay attention to, if there's not subsurface scattering in the engine, you might have to add a little pink to it. Otherwise it might end up looking a little yellow from what we paint. But what I'll do is I'll just render it in, it doesn't even need to be that high of resolution, but let's render it at like at least 1K, and then we can just grab it. We don't even need the actual image. We can even just grab a screenshot. Looks like a little bit of fuzziness in there. Probably not going to be bad as far as in the resolution, but I always like to make sure I can turn up some samples and get slightly better quality. It just will take a little longer to render. And that was the subsurface scattering samples I just turned up. So now, yeah, it looks a little better. Just going to grab it as a square. We'll bring it into Photoshop, and we'll make a shader ball. And what works best for these is right up to the edges. Just make it exactly the perfect circle. And I just need to crop it. Here we go. Right there. All right, and then I will crop it with the image here. So crop, and now we can save this. It should go right up to the edge, so if I'm a little off, I can move pixels up 1 pixel and crop again. That should be good. I just don't want to see any gray, because that will show up in the model, or in ZBrush. Here we go. Okay, save this off as, put it on my desktop, call it the skin shader SSS. Okay. Now we'll just take any one of these madcap shaders. Usually it'll work with any of these, nothing too fancy going on these. So yeah, let's start with chalk, probably easy one to overwrite. I'll copy the material just and paste it, so I have a new one. Or I guess it didn't really paste it here. Did it? Paste it here? I don't see it. I don't really like overwriting the shaders, but chalk is pretty bad, so we can overwrite it. All we need to do is come down here where it's got the Madcap material, and we will import that material that I just made. Skin shade here, and now we have a skin shade model. So this has some lighting to it. There's some shadow on the bottom, just like what we created, and there is some details. It's got a hint of subsurface scattering, which is exactly what I wanted for painting. So this will work, and as you can see how easy that was to bring in, probably could play with it a little bit, but it's pretty close. I like the shade here, but you can see if there's any noise at all, there is some problems. So I had some noise in the subsurface scattering. Just maybe I could crank it up and it would take a little longer to render, but I can also just blur this because all I really need is the noise to go away, and this still will look like a shaded ball. So I'll save it again, and we'll go and import it again, go to my material, and we'll go down to the place where the mat is, and import the new skin. There we are. Now there's no noise in those funky areas. I do see something here. What is that? Is that on the model? That might be on my screen. Yeah, I do see something there. I don't know if that is on the model. So, but yeah, now we don't have any of that weird noise that was showing up. And then we've got a nice subsurface scattering shader. You could do that with metal. You could do it with anything you want. But that is how you make a new Madcap material. I would just save it as not chalk, but skin, SSS. And then I will go on to start painting it using the standard brush. And RGB turned on and add turned off. And now I can come in and start adding actual paint. And I will do that.